Hi there, welcome to Fantasy for the Ages, the show where a father, a son, and some other people sit around and talk about fantasy things. I'm the son of that equation, Zach.
And I'm the father, Jim. Thanks for being with us here today as we just bring some fun content to you again. This time we are talking about the Wheel of Time, but not the books. I mean, we might reference the books, but not really the books. We're here to talk about the TV show now that season 2 is done, and we're going to share anything and everything we want to say about it. With most of our Wheel of Time content, we are spoiler light, so we don't spoil things beyond what we're covering, and that will still pretty much hold true in this episode here. We're going to spoil the 2 seasons of the TV show that are out, but we'll try not to speak about things in a way that's referencing stuff in the books beyond what we've been covering in our show already. So if you haven't finished the books, you're still safe to watch this episode.
And to be honest, it's gonna be hard for me because there's some things that I want to talk further, and I'm just not gonna be able to.
Well, right at the end, maybe we'll take just a few minutes and say, all right, spoilers go, like we sometimes do. We could always do that if we want to, if you just have to let it out. Okay, so Zach, nice to see you today. Nice to be with you as always. But we got these guys with us.
Yeah.
Hello, Derek and Justin. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, y'all. Appreciate the
I was like,
opportunity.
please, somebody talk.
I don't know who's going
I don't know.
I always give
I guess
a couple of seconds.
You guys want to tell us, what do you guys do? What's you got a show? Tell us about your show.
Justin, I guess we'll introduce ourselves.
You want me to introduce?
Yeah. Well, I'm Derek.
I'm Justin.
Man, I must be lagging pretty hard here.
I think you are.
A little bit, just a little.
Well, give me a little grace, then it's going to be hard to deal with.
I'm Justin, or on the show, D&J's Epic Quest, I am also known as J Rule, which is just a character in the series that we've read so far. So I'm kind of like the behind-the-scenes dude. On top of recording and summarizing, I'm also the editor and I guess visual or graphic artist. And this here alongside me, Mr. Dick Cronus.
Derek here. I guess I'm kind of the front of the house to Justin behind the scenes. And it works good for us. I feel bad. I think he does a lot of the work, a lot of the heavy lifting. So I'm very appreciative of having Justin on our epic quest here. But we are covering Malazan. We are a few chapters into Memories of Ice, completed Gardens of the Moon, Deadhouse Gates, one chapter at a time. And we're also working on another book, Curse of the Fallen, which we have the author join us for. And we have a lot of fun with that. So I think that's kind of us in a nutshell.
Now,
Awesome.
I know I have not gotten super far into Malazan. I'm still in Gardens of the Moon. That's a whole thing of its own. But when you say you've been doing this one chapter at a time, like, as far as I've found, they're not short chapters.
No,
they are not. Nope. We just read a 50-pager, and we're currently working on summarizing it.
Yep. Yeah, you are doing the lights work, working your way through that stuff. Definitely. Oh, good stuff. All right, so before we get into our content that we're here for today, talking about the show, and we really thank you guys for coming on and being with us because it's just more fun to talk about with more people. We like to talk about what we're drinking. We believe we create content better when we drink something. We could be completely wrong, but nobody's told us that yet. So, Zach, I saw you lifted something up to the mouth and took a swallow. What are you drinking?
Well, it's a big day of recording for us. We have a number of things, so I can't start too hard too early. So I'm sticking with a Texas staple to get us started. Dr. Pepper. It's a classic, and it's not alcoholic.
Going in hard. Yet. Dr. Pepper. All right, very
there
good.
Are 23 flavors in this thing.
Well, I went the other direction. I didn't make anything complex, but I got myself just some nice rye whiskey, Sazerac whiskey. So I'm just sipping a little bit here. I haven't even sipped yet. I've just been smelling because don't want to go too fast.
Just enjoying the fumes.
Yes.
Right, you gotta start off a little light. You gotta get a little fume high, and
There
then
you
you
go.
take sips. Yep.
We'll get to Derek in a moment. That way I can let the lag catch up to him if it needs to. Justin, what are you drinking?
I am drinking a Paul Lanner München beer.
Okay.
We
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's a lager from München. So
Where's München? Is that like imported then from Germany?
yeah, it's from Germany. Yeah.
I could be totally wrong in all of this, but I'm pretty sure München, that's Munich.
I was
Germans
guessing
call it
maybe.
München,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
to Americans, that's Munich. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Zach actually spent some time over in Germany.
Oh,
I
cool.
did have the privilege a couple of times to go over, and it was very nice, especially the second time when no one around me in my group spoke German, but I did, so it was fine.
Derek,
That's
how about
awesome.
you? Are you drinking anything today?
I've got a double IPA from Toppling Goliath Brewery, which is out of Decorah, Iowa. It is called "This Meeting Could Have Been an Email."
Mm.
I love when they find some
It is pretty
fun,
tasty.
creative names. Absolutely. That's good. That is very good. Well, let's get into discussing this show and what all this thing is about here now. The best place to start is just what were your thoughts after the Wheel of Time season 1 finished? How'd you feel about the show at that point before we ever got season 2? Zach, why don't you go first?
I thought season 1 did a good job of being to the show what The Eye of the World is to the book series.
That's not bad.
In that it is not necessarily the peak of what we're going to see. It is something that gives you a lot of different tastes of different things in this world. It explores some of the general concepts and sets you on a path forward that you can be excited about, but doesn't necessarily hit any of the high points. Maybe has some things that don't make sense. Maybe things that we'll abandon in the next book or season. But it's okay because we're still figuring it out.
Okay. Justin, how about you?
I guess that was such an eloquent way of putting it, Zach. And I don't know if I can really do it any better than that. But I guess I felt maybe indifferent. I really loved seeing the portrayals of characters come out in season 1. Like, now I imagine myself, like, when I eventually get to do a reread of the Wheel of Time, like, I will envision these actors' faces in the story itself. So I thought that as a whole they did a really good job as far as portraying the characters. The indifference comes in as to, like, I guess I was expecting the book but didn't get the book, which is okay. That's definitely not like a fault. I'm not like upset or disappointed or anything, but I guess I had maybe too high of expectations when I started the show. But at the end, I'm like, okay, this was the first season. It was the Eye of the World. It was a portrayal of a series that needs to be televised. So I was happy with it. I
Nice.
found a way to have closure, I guess.
I really like the way you say that because that has a lot to do that matches with my feel. I was just happy to have the Wheel of Time finally on television. Big screen television, there's some definite money involved. It maybe needed more money, but definitely there was money involved. It's a high quality production of the show, but it's an adaptation. There are definite things they were changing. And then there was COVID. And then Barney Harris goes ahead and quits the show. So what they had to do with Matt Cawthon was just messed up then. And there's a lot of those things involved that when I get to the end of the first season, I'm like, I think I like it. I had to keep convincing myself I'm a fan, but I'm really hoping season 2 gets better. That's kind of where I was at. And if season 2 had just been more of the level of season 1, things might have gotten ugly. We'll talk about that in a moment, but I want to hear from Derek. What did you feel? What were your thoughts after season 1 finished about the TV show?
I was hoping to rewatch the first season before we did this. I got through the first couple episodes, but I think overall I did enjoy the first season. And one of the hardest things for me was knowing that Matt had been recast, but I still really enjoyed Barney's performance. And keeping that in mind, I didn't want to, I guess, prejudge Donald before I even saw him on the screen. But it's really hard to do that, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, I heard you say that it's an adaptation. Things are going to be changed. And I'm okay with all that stuff. I think the story was still pretty true to the spirit of things with where it went. And I was really hoping that the second season was really going to just open up the world more and just get more immersive.
Well, you just said a key word there, that it was true to the spirit of the books. And I had to keep reminding myself of that again and again. Okay, we're getting the spirit of it because they're changing things, and some of the changes I just was not on board with. But, that was okay. They were maintaining the spirit. It was the wheel of time. Okay, now season 2's done.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you feel now? And I'll start this time and I'll just say I feel a lot better. I enjoyed season 2 immensely more than season 1 for lots of reasons. And we can get into reasons as we move on to further questions here. But just, again, how does your feeling about the show differ now after season 2? Justin?
Oh, wow. I mean, I felt like instantly pleased. It was just, I feel like it captivated the elements of where the story needed to go in comparison to the series.
Mhm.
Yes, I mean, there were still some things that I was like, what? But at the end of the day, I felt like it was a much better adaptation than the first season.
Yes. Zach, how about you?
So I'm definitely in the camp that when we do like a film or show adaptation of books, I want there to be differences. I want there to be changes because I think some of the fun is in the new and interesting ways that you display the same story. The problem is if you make those changes and they just don't work, or you're not sure why you made the changes. And in the first season, there were a couple of those that I was just like, does this really serve the purpose? What is that purpose? In the second season, there were a lot fewer of those, and most of the things I can be like, I see what you're doing here. This one, oh, that just makes sense so that you don't have to have quite as many characters and they can fit this role, and that's cool. Or, ooh, I like that change. That's another turning of the wheel, but I like it. And so it brought the elements of change that you really need to keep the show interesting to people who haven't read it but need it to make sense. Also, people who have read it and want something a little bit different, while still being something that is true and makes sense to the narrative they're showing in the show.
Sure. Derek, how about you? How do you feel with season 2 done now?
Season 2, I enjoyed a lot. I will say my first watch through, I really did not like the first episode at all. It did grow on me. And I can't really identify what changed, what I didn't like, but I can't think of too many things that I really didn't like on it, but I had fun watching it.
I think the show does get better as it goes throughout season 2. It definitely keeps building up steam. And then the finish. The finish. It's got a heck of a finish. Let's talk about some of these elements. What are some of the things that you see in season 2 that you were really excited about? You loved how they did that. You see where they're going with it. As well as, if you're feeling a little more negative, throw the other kind in. Things that, oh, no, I don't like that at all. I'm just going to open it up. And, nobody monopolize for 10 minutes. Give us something and then let someone else. And let's just kind of jump around. What's something you like or something you didn't? Zach, kick us off with one.
We got Varen, and we got Varen in an interesting way, a place that made sense, and got to see her be simultaneously a badass at just kind of being, and a badass of using her knowledge in weird ways.
Okay. Yeah. The whole Damane arc for Egwene, they did so well. I was really, that was a question mark going into the season. How well are they going to do that? Will they do it? I mean, they kind of have to do it for Egwene. We won't tell you why, spoiler light, but she has to be forced like that. She has to go through that trauma. It shapes her character in a really significant way. And I think they did that beautifully. It's adapted. It's not exactly like the book, but it's also not way off from the book. It's pretty close with what they did with her there. What's one for you, Justin?
The big one for me is so you know how in Jordan's writing you have several chapters that pertain to one story, and I think that the pacing in that book really just kind of allows for everything to be explained and elaborated. But then when you get to the Brandon Sanderson, the last three, every other chapter is a different perspective. And I felt like the show had a lot of moments where you're just kind of like, you're shown something and then something else comes up, but then you don't really get enough time to process what happened in that previous scene. And then it just felt like really jumpy. And not that like I couldn't follow or that it took me a long time to process or anything like that. But I guess I just wanted more time to be able to think about what I just saw.
Kind of a limitation of television there.
Right. And not necessarily a bad thing or like a positive thing, but just kind of like something that I noticed that was abstract.
I am going to piggyback off that for a moment, though, in the same vein, to say I felt there were a lot of times where from the beginning to the end of an episode, I was like, what happened? Not because I was confused on what happened, but rather when I looked at where a character was at the start of the story to where they were at the end of the episode, not much had actually changed about their situation. There wasn't a lot of actionable change until suddenly there was an episode where everything changed for that character. And so that's good, that's fine, but that means throughout an hour-long episode, we had so many different storylines that we were touching in on all of them that each character gets 10 minutes, and now you're like, huh? Not fundamentally an absolute problem for me, but the biggest place I saw it was in the first 3 episodes, where I looked at it and went, could this have been one? I don't think so, but what would we have done if we had somehow made this into one episode and had the ability to have 2 other episodes of content that felt like it actually accomplished more?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like allowed those characters to progress from like one emotional state to the other, or like one understanding point to another, to one like physical place to another. I felt is maybe why the books work the way that they do, and how they progress and function those characters through their story arcs. But smaller, minor, nitpicky thing on my part, but again, not a deal breaker by any means. It's still an adaptation of a book series I absolutely love.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally. Those of you watching, you saw Derek disappeared from our screen again. He's just really struggling with his connection. I've encouraged him to try a few other things, the good old restart your computer thing. You never know. And if he can get it back and up, he's going to come and join us again. Otherwise, Justin has to just carry the load for the both of them. He said you do the heavy lifting for your show already. So here you go.
It's just not the same without their Cronus. But
right. So we'll hope he gets back in here.
Yeah.
Another element that I'll go with a negative side now. Something I think, oh man, I think they did Min dirty in season 2. Mm-hmm. I do not appreciate the choices they made on how to handle her character, nor her talent. They seem to be messing with the rules a little bit on what her talent is. Maybe it's going to be now something a little different. I don't want to go into that too much because it's too spoilery, but
to be fair to them, they haven't fully established what the rules are in the show.
Yeah.
We're just assuming we know the rules because we've read them.
Mm-hmm. So again, it's an adaptation. They may be really changing it, but they've definitely we didn't get much of her in season 1, which is true to the Eye of the World. You don't get much of her. You don't get a lot of her in book 2 and 3 either, but you get some, and you get more than you got here in this TV show. But there's so much more to this character than what we got, and what we got here was mostly completely fabricated for the show. It's not an adaptation, it's a total change, and I didn't really care for that part.
Now I'm going to jump to, I think it's in the last episode, a moment that is one of my favorite changes that they've done that implements and shows one of my least favorite changes.
Okay.
Least favorite, Rand doesn't know how to use a sword. Land never teaches him. We haven't gotten any of that. He doesn't know what he's doing with that thing. And that's okay. But then we get to this moment where he's going to be facing off with High Lord Turok. This is where in the books he actually earns that Heron mark. And instead we get the Indiana Jones sequence where he just massacres them all with a gun, basically. And I loved it. It was so good. It made Rachel just gasp in surprise. Because you're not expecting it to be quite that or quite so brutal. But it was so good and established this is different. This is a different Rand. And we don't need him to do a big sword battle here. That's not the point of this scene.
Yeah. Now, Rach is still a never reader, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so she's just watching it and just seeing. But for us, yeah, it was total Indiana Jones movement. Yeah, loved it. Justin, what's another one for you? A love or a hate? Or hate harsh, dislike.
I may get a lot of hate for this, but I felt like Lan and Moraine were completely unnecessary in this season.
You're not getting hate from me on this. That's not the favorite of me, what they did there. No.
I mean, I get it. They're the highest paid actors on the show, so they obviously have to take a part in it. But it felt really forced, and I felt like even like as a secondary action to what they were doing or their storyline that they were trying to see, like I don't even know what they were trying to go for. Were they taking inspiration from books further on? I don't know, because I'm not getting any type of connection as far as that goes. It felt really jarring. It felt juxtaposed. It felt very different and just, I guess, forced. But
yeah,
again,
totally.
Yeah.
I feel like the writers of the show really have the thing for the warders. And the whole dynamics, the interplay between the Aes Sedai and the warders. And I'm like, okay, we get it. Enough already. Okay, they're just putting way too much time into the touchy-feely emotional stuff between all of them, and I don't need that part. So I'm with you. I'm totally
gonna
with you on there.
agree and disagree.
I'm going to say, you will.
As someone, if you're someone who just loves the books and is a purist about them, of course you're going to feel like they're putting too much into this. Because the books almost forget that warders exist.
Which is okay. It's okay in the books.
Warders are most highlighted for some weird cases that aren't how it's supposed to work. Or Lan, who's just a badass. It's specific individual things. But the entire concept is really cool. And it's just kind of written off as, yeah, they're there. It's important. But we're not going to talk about the inner dynamics that much. And they're trying to actually show and establish that in the show in a way that I think when future things maybe happen, we'll understand it better.
So can I ask you a question, Zach?
Go
on
for
top
it.
Of that? So do you kind of feel like the screenwriters of the show are maybe trying to interpret what would have happened behind closed doors in the book?
To some things, absolutely. In other things, are they adding things to make it a little spicier? Absolutely. There are certain behind closed doors scenes that even in the books are established, yeah, that probably didn't happen. But it can be interesting for someone who's not read them and wants to see something interesting behind closed doors.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
All right, Derek, you're back with us again here. Awesome. We'd love to hear something you liked or didn't care for in season 2 and the choices and what they bring into the screen. So what's something that you want to talk about?
I don't know who that question was addressed to. I heard about half of it again here. So sorry, guys. I don't think I'm going to be able to stay on.
We'll see if we can't maybe like have him FaceTime with me, and then he could be
That would be awesome. Why not, right?
he could just be in my little pocket
just
here.
just in the pocket.
I think that'd be so much fun.
Hey,
But it
Derek, you're
would
gonna
work.
join me on this end.
There it is. It's right there.
So maybe that'll work better.
All right.
Perfect. We can see him now. This works. So, Derek, tell us something you liked or didn't like about the show.
About the second season?
Yes.
I don't think he did a bad job, but I still like Barney better than Donald. And I don't know how much of a hot take that's going to be, but and I can see, you could definitely tell how much he tried to like pick up his mannerisms and his body movements and stuff, and I really appreciated that, but it still wasn't the same. I really liked Lanfear. I think she was great.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
And Moghedian at the end was just, I think she's going to be a lot of fun to see going forward.
Oh, I think we're all in agreement there with Moghedian. Yeah, totally. So there's so many good things. And by the way, your sound came through just right. Justin, you're holding it well for him. So this totally works. Let's just keep doing this. This is great. We can actually see him crystal clear here now too. So it's all good. As long as Justin's arm doesn't just fall off because he's so tired holding him up.
I've got a desk. I'm good.
Okay.
Thanks for
Other
working with me, guys,
elements.
'cause I was really bummed that I was going to just like drop off.
So now you're here. This is great. I want to touch on what you said about Donald Finn and really what they did with Matt's story arc in this one. You know, Rafe Judkins has done some interviews, some Q&As about this, and what we got in season 2 is not what they intended to give us in season 2 originally. When Barney left the show, they had to rewrite a whole bunch of what they intended in season 2. Also, they could still get to the point where all 5 of the Emmons Field characters are there together in Falm, or Falme, which I prefer. But the TV show says Falm, so okay, Falm. It was a little weird what they had to do with Matt's character. I mean, just a lot of the stuff they wrote early on didn't work so much for me. I'm bored. I'm like, come on, give us more. And then I think it's episode 7 where just suddenly, okay, Lanfear just hits him over the head and he wakes up in Falm. Okay, come on. It's weird, you know, but then he's there and we get a nice big finish for Matt, which I totally loved that part. When he's, you know, spouting the old tongue and leading the charge with the Heroes of the Horn. I almost shouted out loud. I mean, that was a great moment. One of my favorites of the season.
To add on to that, I actually really like, I forget what they call it in the book, his ascendre, you know, his spear or whatever. How he used the knife from Shadar Lagoth as the head. That was something I was not expecting, but like really cool.
I
that's a
really
question.
love that or hate it.
Will that be his Ashendari, or is that like his Ashendari 1.0 and the real one's still coming?
Is it a fun
season?
foreshadowing, or is it that's all we're getting? And if it's all we're getting, it's cool. But like, I like the Eelfin and the Elfin. I want them.
But what
what
kind of magic duct tape did he have? I mean, it just looked like he just wrapped it with some cloth, and suddenly he's swinging it all around like a spear.
Some gut string.
I need me some of that duct tape.
Talking about Matt here, I feel like Min was probably the character that's changed the most from the books to the show, and I don't know that I necessarily cared for that a whole lot. I mean, I think the actress is great and everything, but it just like when we saw Matt stab Rand in her vision, like instantly I'm like, okay, well, all right, I see where this is going. But still, like when he threw the spear, Ashandai, whatever you want to call it, it still surprised me when it actually happened. But just like her being, I don't remember her being a dark friend in the book. It's been a long time since I've read the first few books of that series. So maybe that's just something I don't remember much of, but I don't think it was that way.
It wasn't.
And I didn't really sense they portrayed her as a dark friend. I think they portrayed her as someone who's trapped, trying to get out from under what she perceives as a curse. But it's kind of like dark friend light, you know.
To
Yeah.
that end, I'll give you the little bit of grace here, and maybe I'm giving the show grace. I think they're maybe giving a little bit more into, it's not just you're a dark friend or you're not. It's you're a dark friend or you serve the light or many shades of gray in between. And some people are good, but kind of working for the dark because they've been blackmailed or they think bad things. Or maybe
Interesting.
they're bad and they end up working for the light. And I think that gray area is where we get really, really interesting character interactions, developments, and giving a little bit more established wiggle room early on is maybe interesting. Maybe not with Min right now, because
Right.
none of us
Right.
love that.
Well, leaning into that, the levels of gray, we got a lot this season of a Shamael and Lanfear, and they were not caricatures. They're fleshed out people with motivations. They actually got us to like Lanfear. I felt, you know, her relationship as Celine with Rand felt so much more genuine than what we actually get in the books.
Think of
where
the
it
glory.
really feels what's going on here. It felt more authentic. And even then when she comes forward as Lanfear now, there's still something going on between her and Rand a little bit that you could kind of feel some empathy. I thought they did that really well.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. I was really looking forward to oh my god, what is the statue in Karian? Just seeing a little glimpse of
The little
that.
hand sticking out.
The
Yeah,
Choden
yeah.
Call.
There it is. Thank you. I feel
Hopefully
sad. I
still
feel like
coming, maybe, you know?
right,
Hopefully.
yeah. I feel like I just finished the series, but in reality it's been 2 years. So yeah.
Yeah. Other things, anyone that you really liked or that not so much?
Can we talk about Nynaeve's accepted test and just
Yes.
how amazing that was? Like I was crying when she came
When
out.
she came through with now her hands are empty and there's blood and
But I don't recall that happening in the books.
no.
Okay.
Yes,
Not
and
to
no.
that way.
It was
Okay.
enough that, like, when it happened, I was like, when it first happened, before it then goes on and reveals, oh, it didn't actually happen yet. I was almost a little bit like, huh? And confused and maybe even upset, but going, that's not right. And then Rachel next to me is like, what? Huh? Why? And she guesses what they're actually doing based on me being confused and upset about what we're seeing. And I'm like, it was so well done to be able to show, but still confuse and put off people who have read.
Yeah.
Not be obviously what we've seen before.
Yeah. I feel like Nynaeve and the accepted test and Egwene are probably like my favorite pieces of season 2.
I agree. Yeah. Some of the best acting we got. Nynaeve through that experience, and then Egwene in episode 6. And the real Damani struggle there. You know, we saw some really good stuff on the screen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even with the Shan Chen too, like when Perrin and the Shinarians,
Shinarians,
in that town when they meet Suroth for the first time was pretty epic as well. So
it was great to see Loyal go unleashed for a moment. He's throwing guys across the village square. I mean, don't mess with an Ogier, man.
This is a huge change in my opinion, and it has huge implications as we go forward. How do we feel about Perrin actually killing Jeffrey Bornhold?
It was awesome. Awesome. That's just me. We get rid of Child Byar. Guy was a creep. Don't care about that. Now, Dane knows he did kill his dad, but it's not, you know, Jeffrey died because Perrin's in wolf rage mode and saw Jeffrey kill the wolf. That's close enough to the reasons why he does kill White Cloaks in the book. But now Dane actually saw it happen, so he'll be coming at him for the right way, but not understanding what he'd seen. So there's still some nuance there. I think they'll be able to play well. What do you guys think, Derek, Justin?
I think it'll work well. I mean, it was obviously a pretty emotional scene.
Yeah.
And even I was kind of caught off guard that it happened. Like, holy I did not expect it to happen. There was a lot of things, not only that, but just in the season as a whole that, I didn't really expect. And they kind of set things up, that way. But it definitely caught me off guard. But that part I didn't remember how it went down in the book. So to me, it wasn't like a major, I guess, deviation or change or anything. I mean, it may have been, but I didn't remember it that way. I couldn't tell you the last time I read The Great Hunter, Dragon Reborn. I mean, I remember a lot of the major stuff, but some of those detail things are not exactly fresh in my mind.
Yeah.
To me, it almost hurts to know what I'm going to be feeling moving forward because I'm going to be more on Dane's side than I want to be. Because as it stands in the show, he has every right to be pissed. And in the books, it's like, yeah, but he's also mistaken and been lied to and good guy parent. And now it's like, no, you watched him brutally murder your dad. Like, there's more to it, but you're right.
Well, you just identified something, though. You said he watched him brutally murder his dad. It's not murder if you're just fighting back when your companion was killed by this guy.
And that argument of semantics is absolutely where this will eventually go, probably.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that it's a good moral argument for the sake of how I'm going to feel about Dane's feelings.
I think they're going to have to... I mean, they have material to work with now here. And I think it's a good way to condense, for an adaptation, what was in the books to give us still the tension that we want to see. And hopefully this means we're going to get that full Two Rivers plot. Hopefully.
I hope so.
Maybe.
I really enjoyed those parts of the book, so it would be really cool to see at least that be touched on a little bit in upcoming seasons.
It will unfortunately take us back to one of the worst changes of season 1, which is that Matt's dad is a dick. But
yeah, Abel. Yep.
Yeah, that was one of the things I agree with you. I didn't like about season 1.
Just
they
didn't
made
make enough
Matt
sense.
to be just kind of a dirtbag too. He wasn't the Matt that we know and love. And I think they used this season to kind of transform him into the Matt Cawthon we like. And that will continue now, but they did him dirty last season.
I feel like Matt Cawthon in the first season is meant to be the Matt Cawthon that is consumed by Shadar Logoth. But season 2's Matt Cawthon is like the real Matt Cawthon just as far as like appearances alone.
Okay. Yeah.
I get that vibe from him. He
That
seems like the sober Matt, if you could call it that.
Something else I really liked, this is probably the last one I'll say, that was a real upgrade for me, was the ways. I hated the way the ways were portrayed in season 1. And there were restrictions, COVID, money issues, stuff. But they had more money and they didn't have the issues, and they decided to portray the ways far better. Still the adaptation style, but we got to see a little more atmosphere to it. The lightning that flickers at one point in the background, and you can see all the different levels and complexity in the ways instead of just this little torchlight area. And that was it.
It's like
I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, it's like MC Escher painting, but without the
yes. So that was
just like the Waygate opening was awesome. I thought it looked so cool to see that on TV. It looked way better than it did in the first season.
And I loved how quick and easy it was for Lanfear.
Well, they really demonstrated just how powerful these Forsaken are. And that was one of the examples. Moraine does all the weaving and stuff to open the Waygates. And Lanfear's just like, flick. There's power. When she walks into Kyrian's foregate and is just chucking fireballs. Or makes that one horse dude's head just pop. She's got so much power, and it's effortless for her. Thank you. Finally the Forsaken are actually something we can be scared about.
And they did such a good job displaying her power level and displaying enough to make us kind of almost care, even though she's a villain, that when she's not necessarily happy and maybe a little scared at the end with Mogideon, we're not sure what to expect.
Yeah. What'd you guys think of the White Cloaks in season 2? Just as an entity, did you like what they did with the White Cloaks?
I didn't think they seemed as, I guess, creepy as they did in the first season. I thought the guy who plays Dane did a phenomenal job. Like, he's a great actor. It just seemed to fit the role effortlessly. We didn't have a whole lot of Valda, who was, his intentions in his mind are right, but he really came across as pretty creepy and dark in the first season, I thought.
Yeah, he's sketch, man. He's really sketch.
Yeah. But I guess I didn't feel that way as much in this season.
Season 1 really showed us what the questioners of the light, the hand of the light, if you will, what they're really like. And then season 2 goes, but not all White Cloaks. Because look, White Cloaks are not good, but like they're not that bad. And most of them don't actually like Valda and his people.
Yeah. I appreciated the White Cloaks in episode 8 going into Falm. They know they're outmatched, but they're going to go try to help, try to do some good. And they're actually competent. In the books, the White Cloaks are a joke. Everybody, be wary of the White Cloaks, but you never really see a lot of reason why. They're so just
Dumpy.
no, yeah, they don't earn that reputation in what
They're
we see
very
in the books.
stormtroopers in the books.
Yes, and I feel like we've got better White Cloaks. Yeah, we got the icky questioners, but we've got some really good and capable soldiers for the light. And I thought that was kind of cool.
What'd you all think of Avienda and the Aiel in season 2 here?
I'm missing Gaul.
Yeah, that's an adaptation change that
I love seeing Avienda. I love seeing Ban and Chiad. I'm still waiting on when Gaul's going to show up, though. I want my boy.
Yeah, I felt like it was great to see the Aiel and to see them go off in episode 8 and being so effective as a quick fighting force, but I felt like they're shoehorned into this season. We didn't really need the Aiel yet for what they used them for. I got to see what they're going to do in season 3, and maybe I'll understand a little better.
Yeah, I mean, I see where you're coming from. It does feel a little kind of like my point with Lan and Moraine. Maybe they're just setting the scene.
Right.
Yeah.
Can I ask, do you feel like the Aiel are kind of shoehorned into the end of book 3? Because I do. When they're just suddenly taking over the Stone of Tyr. Why?
That's fair.
And then we explore after the fact. In the same way, they look up and see Moraine's fiery dragon. We hear Kara Karn. Where are we going after this?
Man, Zach, we're going to get comments on this show about you being an Amazon Prime shill. I'm telling you, you've got an apologist for all of them.
Of things, and when you come, because I know for a fact you're going to come and give a lot of hate, even though you do love it. So I have to be defending something that I see issues, but I love it.
Yeah. Okay. One of the best actors in the entire season. I mean, there's already people thinking that Zoe Robbins, who plays Nynaeve, might, maybe deserves an Emmy nod for her performance in episode 3. Or, that Madeline Madden, Egwene, for her performance as a Damane, episode 6. Give her an Emmy nod. But the actor who plays Hopper, that wolf, really good. And I learned earlier today that the death scene, that wasn't like CGI'd in or overlaid with extra sound. Everything you saw and heard was the wolf performing, the dog performing.
Wow.
So that last little death whimper, which was like, oh, that was the dog. The dog did that. I mean, Emmy right there. There you go.
I had no idea. I thought that was CGI.
Right? No, that was straight performance.
Yeah. My dog Rolly was sitting on my lap watching the TV with us when that happened, and it was very sad.
Okay, let's kind of bring this around then to a wrap up here as we are looking at, we're looking ahead now to season 3. We've got this great season 2 with a lot that we enjoyed, still some adaptation question marks, but overall, a solid episode, solid season, a definite step forward for the show. I think we're all kind of in agreement with that. We're told in a Q&A with Rafe Judkins, the showrunner, that season 3 is mostly going to be book 4, The
Mhm.
Shadow Rising, with some other elements tweaked in, as they adapt things.
Well-
What do you hope to see? If you think back to what next comes up in the story, what is it that you definitely hope they don't adapt out? That they do include in season 3. What's one or more things you most hope to see?
I'll go first just because it
Go
can be
ahead.
quick. I've already said I love the Aelfin and the Eelfin. I want them, and I'm worried I'm not getting them.
Yeah,
I
I think we'll get them once. I don't think there's going to be 2 times. If we get them, I think we get them one doorway, one time.
I think that if I were to look at it from a logical type of point of view, I think that a lot of the beginning to the middle of the 3rd book was introduced and kind of sprinkled into the 2nd season. So I think if I had to guess, I think the 3rd season will encapsulate the last 4th of the 3rd book in maybe the first 2 episodes, and then through the 4th book, potentially into the beginning of the 5th. I don't know. There's a lot that happens in The Shadow Rising, and it's definitely a fan favorite. So I
Yes.
feel like a lot of fans may be looking at it with a very acute eye, so to speak. But the Rudian, all the stuff that happens with Rand and Matt there, and
Mhm.
the Aiel clans and the Egwene part. I don't know how much to say without spoiling, so I'm trying to
you
be
can talk
really
freely about
evasive
that
here,
stuff because
so.
we're through that so far in our
Okay.
book series. So
Okay, sweet. So yeah, just the training with the wisdoms, with Egwene, Elaine and Nynaeve and Tanchiko with Mogideon, all of that stuff. So
yeah, see, that's I think we're going to get a lot of the Aiel waste. We're going to get a lot of the Aiel culture, Ruidian. I would like to think we'll get the history of the Aiel, which is one of my favorite parts of the book. When Rand experiences those past lives, etc. The history that's set up. I'm really wondering how much we'll get of in the books where it's Nynaeve and Elaine that have gone over to Tanchico, Terabon, and then have that bit with Mogideon. Clearly, we have Mogideon, and clearly Leandrin went somewhere. Will we get that part in season 3 as well? I don't know.
I think so.
You think so? Zach thinks so. Derek, what about you? What are you looking for or hoping to see in season 3?
All the stuff you guys mentioned, and then I would say the Battle of Two Rivers.
Oh yes, that's
That's
all there too. There's so much in this book. How do we get this in 8 episodes?
Hopefully they give us more.
They won't. Not for the first 3 seasons. They announced and locked in when they approved to do 2 and 3 that 8 episode runs. That's what they're doing. If they're gonna add more, it'll be in later seasons. So they're gonna fit this in somehow into just 8 episodes. But keep going, Derek. I kind of cut you off.
No, that's fine. I guess I don't know if you guys talked about the stuff when I was having problems, but I had 2 questions here that maybe fit in good. When Lanfear has Rand locked up to the wheel, I mean, that's Teleron Rio. Do you think that was supposed to be in the waste? This is kind of what I thought. Maybe that's what that would look like.
It looked like it.
That was the vibe, I think.
Yeah.
And then I had messaged this to Justin to maybe bring up to you guys if we didn't work something out. But the Mask of Mirrors, was that a thing in the book somewhere, or am I thinking of a different book series altogether?
No, Mask of Mirrors is in the book. Totally.
Which one? I don't remember.
I don't either.
Which books it shows up in?
I think it's in the Dragon Reborn.
Is it already that early?
Because Else Grinwall.
I don't even
where you can appear as someone else.
Oh, gotcha.
But it's effortlessly done. They totally learn how to do it from Mogideon.
Yeah, it's first, I think, for sure seen when Else Grinwall's in the tower, except it's not Else Grinwall.
Right, when Lanfear is being Else Grinwall. That was the first time we confirmed see it on screen. Yeah. Well,
maybe this is just a coincidence then, but in the 4th episode, when Maureen's visiting her sister and she's looking in the mirror, there is a mask hanging from the mirror. So I didn't know if that was just kind of like some fan service type stuff, or
It could
you
be.
know, something else was
There's
going on there. But
so many little Easter eggs thrown in for book readers where they may not even really do anything with it, but they put it in there because they know
Right.
we'll catch it. We know what's being said there. An example is how much more complex they did the weaving, you know, the channeling this season with all the different colors and such. And as a book reader, you can kind of understand what you're seeing there now. People just watching the show, it's like, oh, they added color, cool. You know, they don't get that yet, but that's there for us. We get the differences, the different kinds of powers that are being accessed and used.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's where I want to bring us to a wrap up here, but I want to ask any final thoughts, any last thing you wanted to say about season 2 that you haven't had a moment yet. Zach, anything you want to say?
The only last thing that I want to mention, because we haven't really at all, is that we did get continued tower politics, and especially how things were left at the when Moraine and Lan went with Lanfear and Rand, and whatever situation was there. It does set the stage for something potentially cool that I don't know how they're going to make it work. There are some key players missing, and I'm very curious.
Okay. Derek, any last thing you want to mention?
I continue to be impressed with the casting that they get for the show. I think every actor or actress has been phenomenal. I mean, you can even look at like the person who played Renna.
Mhm.
Like, it was incredible. Like, just the level of darkness and just cruelty brought to it, which I can't imagine is an easy thing to do. It was
Right.
I don't want to say it was fun to watch on screen, but it made for a good show. And just that they continue to keep getting fantastic actors. Elaine, she just looked like in
They
my head,
nailed
I'm like,
Elaine.
okay, I could definitely see this is Elaine.
Such a perfect casting. Yeah.
Right. So just the casting is great, and I hope they can continue on with that to get just, they take their time and get the right actors for the roles.
Right. How about you, Justin?
All I gotta say is Avienda is very attractive in this season. So yeah.
Thing I'll mention is simply not so much about season 2, but to tie in on the quality of actors they're attracting. We know we do have Showray. I'll always mangle her last name, but the actress who plays in The Expanse, Ava Rasala, is cast in The Wheel of Time now. She's in this show. And who is she going to be?
There are so many great options.
There's most people now are leaning she's going to be Elida. And so we'll see her next season. But it could still be Cad Swain.
I want
could
Cad
be.
Swain. I think it's better that way.
She's gonna be great. It's gonna, again, raise the bar on what we're getting in the performances here when she steps on the screen. She's a great actress. So, all right. Great conversation. Thanks, guys, for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
For your flexibility with technology and making that work. It's been perfect still to have mini Derek, and it's worked great.
He's Pocket Derek.
Sorry
Pocket
Derek. It worked out this way, but I'm glad I could still be a part of it this way. I appreciate that. I was really bummed I was having problems.
We all need
remind us again, if people want to follow your epic quest through Malazan, where do they find that?
Derek, that's you.
Well, you can find us on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, just about anywhere you can find a podcast. Justin's got our stuff on YouTube. We have a TikTok even. Haven't done a lot with that lately. Look us up on Twitter, D&J Epic Quests. If you're inclined, we have a Patreon also. We've got a small little chain of dogs with us along for the ride here. So
fantastic. Well, thanks for joining us, guys. This has been a fun conversation. Derek mentioned Patreon. We've got that too. So this is a good time to remind all of you, look down in the show notes where you can find the other ways you can get a hold of Zach and I, where we are on social media. And our Discord server, we've got about 100 people there. No, we do have exactly 100 people now there on Discord, chit-chatting about all sorts of fantasy and science fiction, and dogs and cats and other nerdy things. Whatever we feel like talking about, it's there on Discord. But our Patreon page, too. Thank you, those of you who are our Patreon supporters. We don't have any cool name for them like that. They're chain of dogs. We don't have anything. We just have people that we thank. Maybe we should come up with something better. I don't know. I'm feeling inferior now. Okay.
Maybe they could call them your fantasy of the spears or something. I don't know.
Ooh, who knows? We'll come up with something. All right. Zach, anything else you need to say before we
I've got
wrap?
nothing.
All right. He's got nothing else. So let's not waste your time. Thanks for being with us, everyone. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.